everybody. Robert Solano here. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about ChatGPT. By this point, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been on the news lately. I'm going to show you how I think ChatGPT may eventually be used in government contracting. So if you're a contracting officer, or a program management officer, or an industry partner, listen up. I think that you'll find this really useful, especially if you have no clue what ChatGPT is. I'm going to cover the basics and then go into some detail with some practical use cases. Now, before we begin, let's start with the 1-minute primer on what the heck is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence program. It's a type of program called an advanced language model. And in summary, about 2015 or so, a company called OpenAI started developing this artificial intelligence system. And the way they started developing it is they started feeding millions and millions and getting to billions of words into this artificial intelligence system and training it to a point where this system called ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence program, can pretty accurately generate text and words and essays and paragraphs based upon a user input. And we'll go through some examples of that today. Now, here's why you probably have heard of it. Because in November of 2022, ChatGPT became available to the public for the first time. Within 5 days, it had over 1 million users. And by late January, it's estimated that it has over 100 million users, and it's continuing to grow more rapidly. What that means is ChatGPT is by far the most rapidly adopted consumer program. It took years for companies like Facebook to get to 1 million users, and yet ChatGPT was able to do it in less than 5 days. No other consumer program or application has come close to the adoption rate that ChatGPT is demonstrating. Microsoft is their biggest investor. They invested $1 billion with a B in 2019. And most recently, it's estimated that they have invested another $10 billion into ChatGPT. And Microsoft loves them because all the artificial intelligence programming happens on Microsoft servers. And also Microsoft plans to roll out some of this artificial intelligence programming into future versions of Microsoft Teams and their Bing Search Explorer. And you'll probably see it in Microsoft Word and Excel, and all the Microsoft products in the future will probably have ChatGPT or some similar artificial intelligence program. Other companies like Slack, Google, Facebook, you name them, all of them are trying to catch up with ChatGPT and implement artificial intelligence systems similar in their programs in the near future. So you will see this soon. Even if you're not using ChatGPT, eventually you will see it either in your Microsoft products, in your Google, whatever you use, sometime in the next few years, they're gonna have artificial intelligence language models like the one I'm about to show you today. I'm not necessarily advocating or promoting ChatGPT. However, you can't ignore that it is the leader in the industry right now and has the most use of any similar system. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to minimize myself and move me over here to the lower right. So first off, how the heck do you get to ChatGPT? And the easiest way to get to it is just go to your local search browser and just type in ChatGPT. And more than likely, the first one that's going to pop up is this website for OpenAI.com. Now from here, you can see there's a little button called Try ChatGPT. You can create an account either using your Gmail account or create a new account with your email, password, etc. Now, this system is currently free, which is phenomenal. I have the paid version because I teach training on the subject. So you'll see a drop down for the different versions that I have, but I'm going to use the legacy default free version, which is version 3.5. So again, no special programming or coding or applications required. This is all in an internet browser. all I did was create an account with a login name and password, and now I am looking at a ChatGPT. And at the bottom, you'll see a prompt with a blinking cursor. And from here, you can just start typing in whatever you want ChatGPT to spit out for you. So let's start with the basics, right? I have a young daughter. She's 2 years old. She's starting to learn to talk. And in a few years, she's probably going to ask me a question like, why is the sky blue? So I can ask ChatGPT that question. And within a second, ChatGPT spits back why the sky is blue. Now, ChatGPT isn't going to a Wikipedia site. It's not going to a database of knowledge. It is looking and from being trained on almost 300 billion words, it is responding to this question much like me or you will respond to a question by thinking about everything we've learned over our lifetime and answering. So I can ask the question again and I may get a completely new response. Now, here's a really good thing about ChatGPT. You can see here that, it's talking about nitrogen and oxygen. I could easily ask ChatGPT, explain it to me like I was 5 years old. And now ChatGPT takes that somewhat technical language and breaks it down as if I was 5 years old. And you can see where it says, have you ever noticed how the sky looks blue during the day? That's because the air all around us is like a big blanket, right? Very, using analogies that a 5-year-old would understand. Inversely, I could also say, explain it to me like I was a 200 IQ. And now it's going to use more technical knowledge and talk about the molecules and Rayleigh scattering and kind of what you would expect for a brainiac. Really interesting stuff here. Okay, next. So that's kind of like a really basic example. Now I'm trying to teach a class on ChatGPT, so I can start a new chat on the top left. I can hit new chat, and I can tell ChatGPT, write an agenda for a 30-minute training session on ChatGPT and how it can be used in government contracting. And notice my prompt had spelling errors. I spelled training wrong. ChatGPT doesn't care. ChatGPT is intelligent enough to recognize that I was writing the word training. And within a few seconds, here you have the agenda for an hour-long training session on ChatGPT. Now, here's an important part that we should highlight. Because ChatGPT is trained on the 300 billion words of human language, whether that's text, blogs, Twitters, Facebook posts, like whatever, it naturally has errors because the human language, naturally has errors. And as it tries to imitate the language, it's going to create new errors. Not only that, but it has certain biases. So just like every human has our own natural biases in the way we think about the world, ChatGPT also has biases from the collective biases that it collected all this information from. It also can occasionally create and return incorrect information. If you're an attorney and you ask it for legal precedents for a certain case type, it may create cases that did not exist. So it may say, in John Smith versus the court of Minnesota, XYZ. Well, any type of factual information that you get from ChatGPT, you really should double check on other sources because that factual information may be wrong or inaccurate. All right. Now, in this agenda, you see this is kind of like a general overview, right? But if I wanted to expand any of this, so let's say this block 2, what is ChatGPT? I could simply tell ChatGPT, expand in more detail. I can paste that section and hit enter. And now ChatGPT is going to expand that section in more detail to help me teach this class more effectively. And I could expand that further and further. And in lots of ways, you could, even write a book. You can say, write a outline for a book that talks about leadership and how to break bureaucracy. And they can give you that outline, and then you can expand each chapter further, and then expand each part of the chapter further until ChatGPT has written a whole entire book for you, which is what some people have done already on the internet. Now, on the left side, you'll see a history of chats. So I started a new chat, but if I want to go back to that conversation, why the sky is blue, all I have to do is click on the chat title, and now I'm back in the conversation of why the sky is blue. Within these chats, ChatGPT has a certain amount of history and memory. So if I'm in the sky is blue chat, I can, all I have to do is say, explain it like you are Yoda. And I don't have to tell it to explain why the sky is blue. It remembers that we were already talking about that in the chat, and it will spit that back out again. And you can see kind of the language that Yoda uses in here. Okay, so let's start a new chat. So program managers, one of the things that program managers do the most is communicating through email. And frequently writing email takes a good amount of work to kind of think through, proofread, etc. So here's a quick hack. In ChatGPT, you could just tell it to, let's say we just celebrated International Women's Day. I could say, write an email to my workforce celebrating International Women's Day. And now, if I could easily give it more details and tell it, highlight that we have X percentage of females in our workforce, highlight that X percent of our leadership team is females, and I could add those facts, and ChatGPT could incorporate it. But you see, within a few seconds, now I have an email that I can send out to my workforce, wishing them a happy International Women's Day. I could tweak this, edit this, just paste this over to Outlook, and it will save me, hours and hours of time. Now, if you're also on social media, you could also just tell it, write a Twitter post using emojis. And now it has a Twitter post. Now, for some reason, it didn't realize that I wanted to write a Twitter post about International Women's Day, but I could easily just say, write a Twitter post about International Women's Day using emojis, and there you go. Really incredible and powerful tool. All right, so in terms of government contracting, let's say you're a new program manager and you're assigned to a program like the Army program or the Air Force program, the F-35, and you have no clue about anything about the F-35. You could easily ask ChatGPT to write an info paper about the history of the F-35 program. And within a few seconds, ChatGPT starts spitting out all the history of the F-35 from its initiation in 1996 through the Joint Strike Fighter program, etc. And if you're new to the program and don't know anything else, this can be a great resource. Now, again, some of these things may be wrong, so you always want to double check any facts that it spits out, because again, it can create things that it thinks sounds good, which may not actually be accurate. And another thing too is currently ChatGPT's memory and all the history that it has that went into training it stops at about 2021. So until OpenAI updates their program and updates the training material that they gave this artificial intelligence program, 2021 is when its memory stops. So it won't know any current events that happen past 2022. Now in the future they may update that, but right now that's also a limitation. So, riffing off this line that you're still a program manager, you could, let's say for example that Senator Richard Shelby is coming out to visit your facility, and whether you're the contractor or the government, either way, you can ask ChatGPT, why would Senator Richard Shelby be interested in the F-35? And almost immediately you learn that, oh, well, he's interested in Alabama. He's a member of the Senate Committee of Appropriations. He is a long supporter of the military and defense related initiatives. And, if you Google this, it would take you quite a while to go through ads and websites. But ChatGPT really can help you do research very rapidly. And, all you need to do is just bounce this off of a secondary source to make sure it's accurate, and you have some really good background information. So I hope these examples show you the power of ChatGPT. So let's imagine that you are a program manager and continue down this thread of how you can use ChatGPT to help with market research and drafting documents. So let's say you're a program manager and you've recently been assigned for a LiDAR program. And let's say if you know nothing about LiDAR, I think we already showed that you can ask ChatGPT to write you an information paper about the history of LiDAR or the scientific specs of LiDAR. But if you were a contracting officer and do market research, you could also ask ChatGPT, what are the leading LiDAR companies? I hit enter too fast on that one. So I didn't. So look at this. I just said, what are the leading LiDAR? I forgot to hit companies. I hit enter before I typed companies. And it kind of already predicted that I was asking about companies. So let's imagine this Velodyne LiDAR company. If we want to do a little bit of research on what this company is about, I could Google Velodyne LiDAR and go to their website. But let's say I want to go to investor relations and look up the last earning call that this company had. So I could pull up the Q2 2022 earning call. And from here, this is a transcript of their last earning call in June. And maybe they've had one since then, I'm not sure. But I could highlight all these meeting notes, all hour and a half or 2 hours of the transcript. If I can get my cursor to work correctly for me here. Copy this and start a new chat over in ChatGPT. And I can ask ChatGPT, summarize this earning call transcript from Velodyne. And I can paste that whole entire transcript into ChatGPT. And this, I intentionally did this to show you that it returned an error message. ChatGPT has a word limit. That word limit is something like 16,000 characters, which is roughly about 1,500 words or so. So if you try putting more than that in, you're gonna get an error message saying that your text is too long. Similarly, ChatGPT has a word limit for how much it outputs. Usually it outputs, about a 500 word or so essay, but much longer than that, it doesn't really work too well. So, you could easily break that up and have it ChatGPT summarize the first part, which is what I'm doing here. And then, you know, later have it summarize the second part. But within a few seconds, now I have a quick summary of the earning call. And frequently, you know, in program management, we have important meetings with different stakeholders. And I know that there's apps and programs that will transcribe those meeting notes for you. Some use similar technology to summarize those meeting notes. You know, but this is just another tool that you can use to summarize meeting notes, or, you know, any large amount of text. You can use ChatGPT to help summarize information for you. So, you know, let's talk about government contracting. So, you know, government contracts are usually posted on a website called sam.gov. And if you're an industry partner, you can go to this website and you can look up contracts that may apply to you. So if I were working at a company like Velodyne and I was selling a LiDAR product, I can search for LiDAR and I could see all the different government contracts that are related to LiDAR. And now, you know, from here, I would find a contract that would fit with my company. Let's say this small uncrewed aircraft system contract. I can click on this, and this is, you know, if you read through it, the Navy is apparently requesting information for vendors that are capable of providing LiDAR for an unmanned aircraft system. I'm not too familiar with this program, but I just read through this potential contract. So if I were a company like Velodyne, you know, there's a lot of information that the Navy wants here. You know, frequently companies have whole teams that do nothing except draft responses to government contracts. Well, ChatGPT can help make that process easier for those companies, which at the end of the day helps the government because it means more competition, more companies interested in applying and bidding on government contracts. So, you know, one potential way to do this is, if I was at company Velodyne, if I went, from ChatGPT, let's start a new chat. And I can just tell ChatGPT, hey, my company is Velodyne. I want you to write a white paper in response to the U.S. Navy RFI offering one of our LiDARs, in this case the M1600. And I could list out the requirements, what the white paper should include, some information about the product. So for the requirements, I'll go back to sam.gov, and if I read through this RFI, I kind of see the requirements here listed under objectives, and so I can copy and paste that as requirements. Now that RFI included some specifics on what the Navy wanted included, so it, for example, says a summary should include these bullets, so I can copy and paste these bullets. And then finally, a description of our product, the M1600. Again, I just picked Velodyne randomly, but this could apply to lots of different companies. So if I went to Velodyne products, and look, and I did this beforehand, so that's how I knew that the M1600 was the actual product of Velodyne. But I can just copy the whole entire website for this product. Now this is their public website. If I actually worked for Velodyne and had a technical paper with more detail, I would use that information. But I can copy, all that technical information about the product. And again, as long as all this isn't over the word limit for ChatGPT, if I hit enter, all of a sudden now I have a white paper that I can edit, or if nothing else, use as a starting point to respond to government contracts and government solicitations. And now, the challenge is that there's the word limit. There's a word limit for how much you can input and how much you can output. So you may have to get creative in figuring out how you can, break up different parts of your proposals or responses in order to, use ChatGPT, but be within the word limits. And again, it's frequently not the end all be all final kind of product, but it at least helps you get started. And getting started by just having this kind of template, answering the government questions, can be really helpful to reduce overhead costs, reduce how much energy it takes to respond to these RFIs and RFPs, and hopefully help more companies cross the burden required to apply for government contracts. Now, let's say that if you were in a contracting office, it could be government contracts or industry partner contracts. But let's say you got this white paper. Well, inversely, you can use ChatGPT and language models to help you, right? You can ask ChatGPT, what are the technical risks associated with this proposal? And you can copy and paste parts of the papers you receive. And now you have, some quick ideas of potential risk areas that you may want to look into. The integration challenge, environmental challenges, performance and accuracy, cybersecurity, quality assurance. And again, any one of these areas you can dive into even more. I could re-prompt ChatGPT and say, describe the integration challenges in more detail, or describe the performance accuracy in more detail. Now, it's important to remember though that this information is being processed on an OpenAI server and Microsoft server somewhere in the cloud. So you definitely should not put any sensitive information on here, no classified information, nothing that you wouldn't want other third parties knowing outside of your agency or organization. And there are ways you can sanitize information and use fake company names or things like that. But I just offer that extra word of caution that any information you put into the system may not be fully private or secure, as if you were processing something on your own local computer or own local server. So another use case of ChatGPT is translating. So if that response that we looked at earlier, if you either received it in a foreign language or wanted to submit it to a foreign partner, you could easily tell ChatGPT to translate the response to Spanish. And in a few minutes, you have that same response translated to Spanish. There are other languages that ChatGPT knows. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I'm sure you can look in the documentation and figure out, what languages ChatGPT knows. Now, a few other points. ChatGPT also knows coding language. So you could tell ChatGPT something like, write a Python code for Hello World. And ChatGPT will print out the Python code for Hello World. Obviously, this is like the most simple, coding language ever, or program ever, but you can make, incredibly complex programs in, JavaScript, Python, SQL, etc. But one of the interesting things is that ChatGPT also knows how to write Excel code. So, let's say, for example, Let's say, for example, I had an Excel document with a list of email addresses in column A, and I wanted to extract the domain names from that and put the domain names in column B associated with each of those emails. Let's say I wanted to know how many companies were represented in that list of emails, and then I wanted to count how many emails there were per company. I can ask ChatGPT to write the Excel code for that, and ChatGPT will write the Excel formulas as well as this little tutorial. Again, saving analysts countless hours if they were trying to figure this out by themselves. I can't even imagine how many websites I would have to look through to figure out these simple formulas that ChatGPT spits out really, really quick. So here's another great example. If you're working on your resume, for example, let's say you're in the military and you are trying to transition to the civilian world. You have all your annual Army or Navy evaluations, and you don't know how to translate that into civilian language. Well, you can ask GPT to help with your resume. So in this example, I took a previous evaluation report and I said, hey, I'm applying to be a program manager at Google. Translate my evaluation from the military into a civilian resume. And within a few seconds, now I have bullets for the work I did in the military kind of translated into civilian language. And then if you have questions on this training, ChatGPT can even help you do questions and answers or prepare for interviews. So if I start a new chat, I can ask ChatGPT, what are some thought-provoking questions to ask someone during a Q&A session following ChatGPT training? And now I have some questions. If I was giving the training, I can use these questions to help me prepare. Or if I was in the training and at a loss for questions, I could use this to help me engage the speaker. And I could easily pick one of these questions and ask ChatGPT to write a response. So, write a reply to this question, paste that question. And, now I have kind of a standard reply that I can at least use as a template, or at least use to start getting my creative juices thinking, so that if I do get fielded that question, I have an answer to give. All right, I really just gave you a few simple examples today, and really the purpose was to show you the potential for ChatGPT. And ultimately, the potential is only limited by your imagination. There's so many things you could do. Its ability to understand language is incredible and mind-blowing if you haven't been on here before. Now, trust me, I know there's a whole lot of discussions about the ethics, about how, is this going to make people dumb when they're using ChatGPT to write essays, and how is this going to affect our academic institutions, and there's so many other considerations, but I really don't think that ChatGPT, and more broadly speaking, the artificial intelligence language model field, is going away anytime soon. Companies are making huge multi-billion-dollar investments into this technology. It's coming strong. It's going to be integrated into almost every device or program really, really soon. And my personal opinion is that, similar to how today we expect everyone in the business world to have a functional understanding of Excel and Word and Outlook, in the near future, I expect that we will expect everyone in the business world to also have a fundamental understanding of language models, because it truly increases your productivity and output, if I had to guess, I'd say anywhere probably minimum fivefold if you're someone that writes on a regular basis. All right, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Be sure to like, subscribe. If you have interesting use cases that you'd like me to add to future training, I would love to hear them. Throw them in a comment, and I will try to reply or maybe include it in some future videos. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.